The conference room fell silent as the hologram flickered to life above the table. Commander Ryan Mitchell stared at the rotating image, 3 kilometers of twisted metal and scorched plating that looked more like a garbage heap than a starship. It hung in Earth's orbit like a bad joke, dumped there by aliens who'd made first contact 3 years ago and hadn't stopped looking down on humanity since. "They're laughing at us," General Lisa Crawford said, her knuckles white against the edge of the table. The Galactic Concordat had dropped this wreck in their backyard and called it a gift. A charitable donation from the advanced species to the primitive Earthlings. Everyone in the room knew what it really was, an insult wrapped in diplomatic language. Ryan couldn't disagree. For 3 years, Earth had been trying to prove itself worthy of respect among the stars. For 3 years, the aliens had patted them on the head like children playing with toy rockets. This derelict warship, destroyed in some ancient war nobody remembered, was their way of saying humanity would never be more than a curiosity. "Sir, I've looked at the scans." Lieutenant Beth Taylor stood up from the back of the room, tablet clutched in both hands. Her eyes had that dangerous sparkle Ryan recognized, the look of an engineer who just found an impossible puzzle. "This thing is amazing. Yes, it's 60% destroyed. Yes, the systems are completely alien. But there's still power running through sections of it. Active components the Concordat couldn't figure out." "It's space junk," Crawford countered flatly. "It's an opportunity," Beth fired back, stepping forward to manipulate the hologram. Layers of hull peeled away, revealing glimpses of what lay beneath. Conduits carrying energy in impossible patterns, materials that shouldn't exist according to human physics, chambers that seemed to fold into dimensions the eye couldn't follow. The Concordat looked at this ship, couldn't understand it, and wrote it off. "But we're not them. We don't give up just because something looks impossible." Ryan studied the young engineer carefully. He'd requested her for this assignment specifically because she had a reputation for seeing potential where others saw dead ends. The kind of person who looked at broken things and imagined what they could become. "You really think we can repair this?" he asked. Beth's grin could have lit up a room. "Repair it? No, sir. I think we can make it ours. Turn their trash into our treasure. Show them what humans do when everyone counts us out." 2 weeks later, Ryan floated through the dead corridors of what the crew had started calling the Defiance. Every surface felt wrong. The angles hurt to look at. The metal was composed of elements that made no sense when you ran them through a scanner. Energy conduits carried power in forms that violated every law of thermodynamics Ryan had learned in school. This ship had been built by the architects, a civilization that had vanished 10,000 years ago, and even the advanced aliens of the Concordat couldn't understand their technology. "Commander, you need to see this." Dr. Tom Rivers, the team's lead physicist, was anchored to what might have been a control panel, his equipment painting streams of data through the air. Around them, dozens of crew members worked in controlled chaos. Engineers, computer specialists, military experts, even a few civilians with unusual skills that traditional channels would never have approved. Ryan pulled himself over using his mag boots, grateful for the zero-gravity training that kept him from looking like a complete fool. "What am I looking at, Tom?" "Honestly? I have no idea." The physicist laughed, a sound caught between wonder and frustration. "This section distributes power, but it operates on principles that don't match any physics we know. The math doesn't work, our math anyway. The architects were using a completely different framework for understanding reality. It's like trying to read Shakespeare when you only speak Mandarin. Can we learn their language? Maybe. With enough time, enough mistakes, enough." The explosion cut him off. The ship lurched sideways, sending Ryan and Tom tumbling through zero gravity. Emergency lights flashed red. His comm crackled with urgent voices shouting about containment breaches and fire in Section 7. Ryan was already moving, pushing off walls with practiced efficiency, following the smoke to where Beth and her team were frantically working to seal a ruptured conduit. Energy sparked from it in colors that didn't have names, burning patterns into the air that hurt to watch. "What happened?" Ryan demanded, grabbing a handhold to stop his momentum. "We tried routing power through a backup system," Beth called back, not taking her eyes off her work. Soot streaked her face and her hands moved with desperate speed. "Turns out the alien systems don't like being forced. They fought back. Like the ship is alive and we just poked it with a stick." "Casualties?" "Burns, nothing critical. We got lucky this time." She finally glanced his way and despite the danger, despite the pain, she was smiling. "But we learned something important, Commander. This ship isn't dead. It's sleeping. And it really doesn't appreciate being woken up roughly." 6 months crawled by. Progress was measured in centimeters when they needed kilometers. Every breakthrough spawned 3 new problems. They lost 2 crew members to accidents, good people who'd believed in the dream of making something impossible into reality. A dozen others quit, unable to handle the constant failures. The funding burned through billions that could have built a conventional fleet. Ryan sat in his cramped office reviewing reports that all said the same thing. This wasn't working fast enough. Maybe it wasn't working at all. His door chimed. Ambassador Greg Palmer stood there, the Concordat's liaison to Earth, wearing his usual expression of polite condescension. His translator collar rendered the alien's words in perfect, slightly patronizing English. Commander Mitchell. I thought I'd check on your project. Greg gestured toward the window where the Defiance hung in the distance, still more wrecked than warship. Our analysts estimate you've achieved approximately 3% functionality. Quite impressive for your species, considering the circumstances. Ryan felt his jaw tighten. We're making progress. Indeed. Of course, the Concordat has operated vessels of this type for millennia. Perhaps if you admitted this is beyond your capabilities, we could arrange something more suitable. Farming equipment perhaps? Your agricultural sector could use. No thank you, Ambassador. Ryan cut him off, standing to meet the alien's eyes. We'll figure this out. Greg's expression shifted. Surprise maybe? The translator collar couldn't quite capture all the nuances. Commander, please understand I'm not mocking you. The vessel you're attempting to restore was built by the architects, a race whose technology surpassed even ours. They've been extinct for 10,000 years. Even we couldn't salvage their ships. This isn't about human capability, it's about acknowledging reality. Then I guess we'll do what you couldn't. Ryan stepped closer and he was smiling now, but it wasn't friendly. Humans have a saying, Ambassador. One person's trash is another person's treasure. We're really good at making something out of nothing. It's kind of our specialty. We've been doing it since we lived in caves. The breakthrough came on a cold October morning, 14 months into the project. Ryan was reviewing supply requests, trying to figure out how to ask for more funding without admitting how far behind schedule they were, when Beth's voice exploded over the comm system loud enough to make him jump. It's working. Commander, get down here right now. He ran. When he reached the main engineering bay, he found the entire crew cheering. In the center of the room, contained in a field of shimmering energy, a sphere of pure light pulsed with power that seemed to come from somewhere beyond normal space. It was beautiful and terrifying and absolutely impossible. We got it online, Beth breathed, and Ryan could see tears streaming down her face. The primary reactor. 15% power output and climbing. And it's stable, Ryan. Completely stable. Tom stood beside her, openly crying. We did it. We actually did it. Ryan stared at the impossible engine, feeling something he hadn't let himself feel in over a year. Hope. Real, genuine hope. How? He asked simply. Beth turned to him and her grin was blazing. We stopped trying to force it. Stopped treating it like a machine we needed to fix. Started treating it like a conversation. The ship's systems are part organic, part quantum computer, part something we don't even have words for. They respond to interaction. They adapt to the user. The Concordat tried to make it work their way. We asked if it would work with us. And it said yes. You're telling me this ship is alive? Not alive like we're alive. But not dead either. It's something else. Something the architects created to bridge the gap between machine and mind. And it likes us, Commander. It's curious about us. It wants to see what we'll do with it. Ryan watched the light grow brighter, felt the hum of power spreading through the deck plates beneath his feet. Somewhere above them, Concordat observers were probably scrambling to figure out what just happened. Probably sending urgent messages back to their homeworlds about the primitive humans who just accomplished what the galaxy's best engineers had declared impossible. Let them watch, Ryan thought. Let them see what happens when you underestimate humanity. Let them learn that humans don't quit just because something is hard. The Defiance was waking up. And Ryan had a feeling the galaxy was about to get a lot more interesting. 18 months into the project, the Defiance hung in Earth's orbit like a half-finished dream. Ryan stood at the observation window, watching robotic arms weave between sections of alien hull, installing human technology where ancient architect systems had failed beyond repair. It was ugly work. Part salvage, part surgery, part miracle. Beside him, pilot Jake Henderson sipped coffee from a squeeze bulb, watching the same scene with fresh eyes. It looks like Frankenstein's monster, Jake said with a grin. Best kind of monster, Ryan replied. Built from spare parts and sheer stubbornness. The past 6 months had been equal parts breakthrough and disaster. They'd cracked the alien energy distribution network, only to discover it required materials that didn't exist anywhere on Earth. So Beth's team had improvised, creating synthetic substitutes using metamaterials and quantum-locked carbon that shouldn't work according to any physics textbook but somehow did anyway. They'd mapped the ship's computational pathways, a neural network that was part computer, part organic tissue, part something entirely unknown, then watched 3 expensive AI systems get fried when they tried to interface with it. The 4th attempt had worked. Sort of. A teenager named Megan Cole, brought in as a consultant after she'd hacked into a military database just to prove she could, had designed a hybrid interface that the ship actually accepted. But the connection went both ways. Megan reported dreams filled with star systems she'd never seen, battles that had ended thousands of years before humans had invented writing, and a deep, aching loneliness that didn't belong to her. "Commander Mitchell, we've got a situation." Dr. Elena Santos, the xenobiologist, sounded breathless over the comms. Section 12. "You need to get down here immediately." Ryan exchanged glances with Jake, then they were moving. Section 12 had been sealed off for months, deemed too damaged to bother with when they had so many other systems to restore. Now, as Ryan floated through the newly cut access hatch, he understood why Elena had sounded like she'd just witnessed a miracle. The chamber was massive, easily the size of a football field. And it was growing things. Crystalline structures sprouted from the walls like frozen gardens, pulsing with soft blue light. They formed patterns that hurt to look at directly. Mathematical equations made physical fractals that seemed to extend into dimensions Ryan's eyes couldn't quite follow. At the center of the chamber, suspended in a web of light, something that looked like a metal seed pod was slowly opening. "What am I looking at?" Ryan whispered. Elena floated beside him, her scanner working overtime. "I think this is a fabrication bay. The architects didn't just build their technology, they grew it. This chamber was dormant until we brought the main reactor online. Now it's trying to complete whatever its last instructions were." "Which were?" "Repairing the ship." Elena's voice was filled with wonder. "Ryan, that pod is generating replacement components. Not building them, growing them. Biological circuits, self-healing hull plating, weapon systems that are half alive. If we can figure out how to control this, we could finish what the architects started," Tom interrupted, appearing from behind one of the crystal formations. His face was flushed with excitement, and he was talking fast the way he always did when he discovered something incredible. "But there's more. The energy signatures suggest this fabrication system doesn't create matter from nothing. It pulls resources from somewhere else. Another dimension, parallel space, I don't know. The physics is completely insane and completely functional." Ryan felt possibilities pressing down on him like physical weight. "Can we control it?" "Maybe. Megan thinks she can interface through the neural network. But Ryan, if we're wrong, if we push too hard, the ship could reject us completely. Or worse, the fabrication system could start growing things we don't want. The architects built this for war. Their weapons could be dangerous in ways we can't predict." Ryan looked at the pulsing seed pod, thinking about all the months of struggle, the lives lost, the fortune spent. They were so close to making the Defiance operational. But operational for what? What were they really building here? "Set up the interface," he decided. "But carefully. Megan, I want you monitoring every microsecond. First sign the system shows hostility, we shut it down completely." 3 days later, Megan sat in a custom rig at the heart of the fabrication chamber. Neural connections ran from electrodes on her temples to a console that Beth's team had built from spare parts, educated guesses, and desperate hope. Around the observation booth, monitors displayed everything from Megan's brain activity to energy fluctuations in the chamber. "Beginning connection," Megan said, her voice steady despite the obvious danger. "I can feel it reaching back. It's curious about me. Like a really old dog that forgot it had an owner." Ryan watched from behind reinforced glass, Beth at his shoulder with her hand hovering over the emergency shutdown. "Can you communicate what we need?" "I'm trying. It's showing me memories. The architects weren't like us. They were collective intelligences, thousands of minds working as one. This ship wasn't just built, it was birthed. And it's lonely, Ryan. It's been alone for 10,000 years. Stay focused, Megan. Can you tell it we need defensive systems?" "Already done. It understands. It's offering options. Weapon systems, propulsion upgrades, shields. It wants to help. It wants to be whole again." On the monitors, the seed pod began pulsing faster. The crystalline structures lit up in sequence, and Ryan felt vibrations through the deck plating beneath his feet. "Energy spike." Tom called from his station. "The fabrication system is activating." "Megan, what's happening?" "It's starting. Commander, it's showing me what it can do. Shield emitter arrays adapted to work with our power systems. It's modifying architect technology to be compatible with human engineering. On its own. The fabrication process lasted 4 hours. Light poured from the seed pod, not normal light but something that made Ryan's eyes water and his thoughts feel stretched thin. The light solidified into structures that were half metal, half living tissue, geometric impossibilities that seemed to fold through space in ways that shouldn't be possible. When it finished, the Defiance had a functioning shield grid that human engineers estimated would have taken 5 years and billions of dollars to develop from scratch. And Megan Cole, disconnecting from the neural interface with shaking hands, looked like she'd aged 10 years in 4 hours. It showed me everything, she whispered as Ryan helped her from the rig. The architects' last battle. They fought something called the Swarm, machine intelligences that consumed entire civilizations. The architects built these ships to stop them. But they lost. The Swarm devoured their worlds, and the architects recorded themselves into their ships. Turned themselves into weapons. Ryan felt ice in his veins. Are you saying there's an architect consciousness inside this ship? Fragments. Echoes. Most of it is gone. But enough remains to remember what it was built for. Megan looked up at him with haunted eyes. Commander, the Swarm is still out there somewhere. And this ship knows how to fight them. 3 months later, the Defiance conducted its first powered flight. The massive vessel, no longer quite so broken, glided through Earth's orbital space with grace that shouldn't be possible for something so large. Human fusion reactors worked alongside the architect's exotic power core. Railgun batteries sat next to energy weapons that bent space itself. The crew had grown to over 300 people who walked corridors that were part human construction, part alien technology that had learned to accommodate their needs. Ambassador Greg Palmer stood on the bridge, a chamber that still hurt to look at directly, all impossible angles and surfaces that seemed to extend into places the human brain couldn't process, watching the view screens with barely hidden shock. Impossible, he muttered. The propulsion efficiency you're achieving surpasses even our best vessels. That's because you tried to force architect technology to work like yours, Beth explained, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. We worked with it. Found the middle ground between their science and ours. Asked it what it needed instead of telling it what to do. And the weapons? Greg turned to Ryan, who stood at the captain's station. We've detected energy signatures consistent with Assault-class armaments. The Concordat specifically requests that humanity limit military development until... The Concordat can request whatever it wants, Ryan interrupted calmly. This ship belongs to Earth. You gave it to us, remember? Called it charity. One person's trash. Before Greg could respond, alarms shrieked across the bridge. Jake, seated at the helm, spun around. Commander. Distress signal, Concordat frequency. It's from the Colony World Sanctuary, 3 light years from here. Put it through. The view screen filled with static, then showed a Concordat administrator, one of the insect species whose name Ryan couldn't pronounce. The alien's carapace was scorched and behind it, structures burned. This is Sanctuary Station. We are under attack. Unknown hostile forces. Our defense fleet is destroyed. If anyone can hear this, please. The transmission cut to static, then to something worse. Ryan saw shapes moving through the smoke. Geometric forms that flowed like liquid metal, consuming everything they touched. Dear God, Tom breathed. What are those things? But Megan, staring at the screen with wide eyes, knew exactly what they were seeing. It's the Swarm, she said quietly. The architect's enemy. They're still here. And they've found the Concordat. Ryan looked at his crew, at the alien ambassador whose condescension had evaporated into fear, at the ship humming around them like something remembering its ancient purpose. Jake, how fast can we reach Sanctuary? 30 hours with the architect drive. The defense fleet will send reinforcements, Greg said quickly. You don't need to. Yes, we do. Ryan sat in the captain's station, feeling the ship respond to his presence through connections he didn't fully understand. Beth, bring all systems online. Tom, maximum power to shields and weapons. Megan, tell the ship we're about to do what it was born for. The young woman smiled grimly, placing her hands on the neural interface. It already knows, Commander. It's been waiting 10,000 years for this fight. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sanctuary system, and Ryan knew immediately they were too late to save everyone. The sight made his stomach turn. Concordat defense vessels drifted through space as broken hulls, their elegant designs torn apart by weapons that looked designed to unmake reality itself. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers, the remains of ships that had been the pride of alien civilizations. Combat scan, Ryan ordered, his voice cutting through the shocked silence on the bridge. Jake's fingers danced across his console. Reading 17 hostile vessels. Wait, more are forming. 20 now. They're combining with the debris, Commander. It's like they're learning from what they destroy, incorporating it into themselves. On the view screen, Ryan watched the enemy ships move. They weren't sleek like Concordat vessels or chunky like human warships. They were geometric nightmares, all sharp angles and edges that hurt to look at, constantly shifting and reconfiguring as they absorbed wreckage. These were the swarm, and they moved with purpose that was almost alive. Sanctuary Station is still broadcasting, Lieutenant Amy Walsh reported from communications. But the signal's weakening fast. I estimate less than an hour before the swarm reaches the civilian sectors. Millions of people, Commander. Ryan felt the weight of 300 lives behind him, human crew members who'd signed up to build a ship, not fight an ancient war against machine monsters. But he also felt something else through the neural link Megan maintained. The Defiance itself was awakening fully, recognizing its enemy across thousands of years. All hands to battle stations, Ryan said quietly. Beth, shields to maximum. Tom, bring weapons online. Megan, if this ship has any tricks from its first life, now's the time. Commander, Ambassador Greg spoke up from the back of the bridge, and Ryan could smell the fear scent his species produced. You can't engage. One ship against 20? Our finest vessels couldn't stop them. This is suicide. Your finest vessels weren't built to fight these things, Ryan said. We were. Or at least, the architects who built this ship were. Time to find out if their legacy still works. The first swarm vessel detected them at 2 million kilometers. It broke formation instantly, accelerating with impossible speed, its hull reshaping into something that looked purpose-built for tearing ships apart. It was coming straight for them. Incoming. Jake called out. Impact in 40 seconds. Let it come, Ryan said, surprising himself with how calm he sounded. But he could feel the Defiance's confidence through Megan's neural link, a strange certainty flowing through the ship's hybrid systems. Shields at full power? Affirmative, Beth confirmed. Commander, the shield harmonics are fluctuating on their own. I think the ship is adjusting itself to counter enemy weapons. It remembers how to fight them. The swarm vessel opened fire at 20 kilometers. Projectiles that seemed to phase between dimensions, matter that wasn't quite matter, existing in multiple states at once. They should have been impossible to defend against, weapons that ignored normal physics. The Defiance's shields caught every single one. Blue-white energy rippled across the shield bubble as the exotic weapons hit and simply dissipated. Ryan saw his crew exchange looks of disbelief, but he was watching the data flowing through Megan's link. The ship hadn't just blocked the attack, it had analyzed it, recognized it from ancient memories buried in its systems, and adapted in microseconds. Return fire, Ryan ordered. Let's see if they remember us too. The Defiance's main weapons fired, a hybrid system combining human railgun technology with architect energy manipulation. Solid projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed, wrapped in fields of exotic energy that the architects had designed 10,000 years ago specifically to harm the swarm. The enemy vessel tried to phase away, to disperse its form like it had done countless times against Concordat weapons. The architect rounds didn't care. They hit, and the swarm ship simply came apart, its matter unable to hold together in the face of weapons designed by its ancient enemy. Target destroyed, Jake reported, awe in his voice. One shot. One kill. It's not destroyed, Megan said softly, her eyes distant. It's dissolved. The architect weapons don't just damage the swarm, they make them forget how to exist. It's beautiful and horrible at the same time. 19 more to go, Ryan said. Jake, take us in. Combat speed. Let's save some lives. The Defiance dove into the sanctuary system like a shark that had been sleeping for ages and suddenly remembered it was a predator. The swarm vessels converging on the wounded station scattered in what might have been confusion or might have been ancient fear. Their formations broke apart, reforming into defensive patterns that hadn't been seen since the last time architect vessels had hunted them. They're trying to surround us, Jake called, throwing the ship into rolls and turns that would have been impossible without architect gravity manipulation. 6 inbound vectors. Multiple targets, Ryan confirmed, watching threat indicators light up his display. Tom, spread our fire. Beth, keep rotating shield frequencies. Don't let them concentrate on one section. What followed was controlled chaos. The Defiance wove through storms of exotic fire, shields flickering under assault from weapons trying to unmake reality. But for every shot the swarm landed, the ship adapted, learning and evolving with each microsecond. And when the Defiance fired back, swarm vessels died, or dissolved or forgot how to be. Whatever Megan wanted to call it, the result was the same. The ship's targeting on its own, Megan reported, strain showing in her voice. I can feel it thinking. It's not just a weapon, it's a warrior. It remembers how to fight them. Every architect who ever served on this ship is fighting with us right now. Can you control it? Ryan asked, concerned. I don't need to. It's following our intent but adding its own experience. We're not fighting alone, Commander. We have 10,000 years of combat knowledge backing us up. A swarm vessel materialized directly above them, having phased through normal space. Its weapons were already charging for a point-blank kill shot. But the Defiance was faster. The shield bubble inverted for a split second, an impossible maneuver that Beth's console showed as theoretical only, and redirected the swarm's own weapons back at it. The enemy ship vanished in a flash of light that wasn't quite light, leaving afterimages burned into Ryan's vision. 15 hostiles remaining, Jake reported. They're breaking off, heading to the outer system. No, Megan's voice was sharp with alarm. They're not retreating. They're combining. Ryan, the swarm vessels are merging into a single entity. The ship's memories show this. It's what they do when they meet real resistance. They become one. On the view screen, Ryan watched the remaining swarm ships flow together like liquid metal, forming something enormous. It was the size of a small moon, a geometric horror that seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. And it was turning toward them with deliberate purpose. Well, Ryan said quietly, guess we got their attention. The merged entity accelerated toward Sanctuary Station, and Ryan realized with sick certainty what it intended. It couldn't easily kill the Defiance, so it would destroy what they'd come to protect. Force them to choose between fighting and saving millions of civilians. Jake, intercept course. Maximum speed. Sir, that thing is 1,000 times our mass. If we get between it and the station. That's exactly what we're doing. Beth, all available power to forward shields. Tom, ready every weapon. Megan, ask the ship if it has anything special for this. The Defiance surged forward, engines pushing past safety margins that human engineers had calculated and that architect systems cheerfully ignored. They reached the station with seconds to spare, positioning themselves between millions of lives and oncoming death. Contact in 10 seconds, Jake counted down. 5, 3. The collision never came. At the last moment, the Defiance's shields extended forward impossibly, creating not a bubble but a wall of energy spanning kilometers. The swarm entity crashed into it like a tidal wave hitting a dam. Ryan felt the impact through the neural link, not as damage but as pure pressure. Every system screamed with strain as they held the line against impossible force. Lights dimmed. Conduits burst. In engineering, Beth's team frantically rerouted power to keep shields stable. We can't hold this. Tom shouted over alarms. Shield strength dropping. 90%. 80. But Ryan was listening to Megan, to whispers of dead architects flowing through the neural link. Hold on, he said. Just a few more seconds. Trust the ship. The Defiance's main weapons fired, not outward at the entity but inward at their own shields. Exotic energy interacted with shield harmonics in ways human physics couldn't explain. The shield didn't collapse. It inverted, becoming a weapon itself, a field of destructive force existing in multiple dimensions. The swarm entity screamed. Ryan didn't hear it with his ears but felt it through the link. The death cry of something that shouldn't have been alive but was, something that had terrorized a galaxy and was now remembering fear. The entity came apart. Not exploded. Not destroyed. It simply ceased to be, its matter forgetting how to hold together. In the aftermath, the Defiance hung above Sanctuary Station, battered but intact. 17 injured crew members, 3 critical. Entire sections needing rebuilding. But they'd won. On the bridge, Ambassador Greg waited with a Concordat fleet that had arrived too late. His expression was complex: shame, gratitude, fear. Commander Mitchell, he said formally, you saved millions of lives today. Just doing what we came to do, Ryan replied. What you demonstrated today raises questions. A single human vessel defeating what destroyed our entire fleet. Ryan looked at his ship, his crew, his people. Tell your colleagues that humanity didn't ask for this war. But we showed up anyway. That's what humans do. As the Defiance turned toward Earth, Ambassador Greg watched it go, trying to explain to ancient civilizations that they'd underestimated the humans. And in deep space, the swarm processed new data and reached a chilling consensus. The architects' weapons had returned. The war had just begun again. 6 months after Sanctuary, Earth's orbital space looked like a construction yard that had exploded in size. Where once a single platform had struggled to repair alien wreckage, now dozens of stations filled the sky, each one assembling warships at a pace that shocked the galaxy. Ryan stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing the new reality. Red markers showed swarm attacks, 17 in the last month alone, each one bolder than the last. Blue marked Concordat positions, spreading thinner as they tried to defend too much space. And green, pitifully small but growing, showed humanity's fleet. The Concordat Council has fractured, General Lisa Crawford explained, manipulating the star map. 3 factions now. The Allies want full military cooperation with Earth. The isolationists think we're too dangerous and want us quarantined to our own system. And the traditionalists are still pretending we don't matter, even after Sanctuary. What does the swarm think? Ryan asked dryly. Intelligence shows they're adapting, Beth chimed in, now wearing the rank insignia of Earth's chief technology officer. Every battle gives them data. They're analyzing our tactics, our weapons, learning how we fight. The swarm we beat at Sanctuary was using 10,000-year-old strategies. The forces hitting Concordat colonies now have developed specific counter-tactics against architect-human hybrid systems. Learning fast, Tom added, looking older and grayer than 6 months ago. Too fast for comfort. Ryan absorbed this information, feeling command weighing on him differently now. The Defiance wasn't just a ship anymore, it had become a symbol. Earth's way of telling the galaxy that humanity wouldn't sit on the sidelines during someone else's war. Show me our assets, he ordered. The display shifted, showing 5 new vessels in Earth's orbit, smaller than the Defiance but incorporating everything they'd learned. The Resolute, Intrepid, Valiant, Steadfast, and Dauntless, humanity's first true war fleet, each one part human innovation, part architect legacy, completely unique in the galaxy. They're not ready, Beth said carefully. Another month minimum before. Every screen in the war room flashed red. Alarms howled. Alert from orbital defense, Lieutenant Amy Walsh called out, her voice tight. Massive swarm signature detected. Not at system's edge. Here. Inside the Kuiper belt, practically on our doorstep. How many? Ryan demanded, already moving toward the door. Hundreds confirmed. Maybe thousands forming. Commander, this isn't a raid or a probe. This is a full invasion fleet targeting Earth directly. Ryan materialized on the Defiance's bridge via emergency transport beam, still pulling his uniform jacket on. Jake was already at helm control, Megan at her neural interface station, the bridge crew moving with practiced efficiency of people who'd survived one impossible battle and knew they were about to fight another. Tactical display, Ryan snapped. The view screen showed a nightmare. Swarm vessels filled near-Earth space like a metallic plague, more than Ryan had ever seen in one place. They weren't attacking yet, they were positioning, surrounding the planet, cutting off escape routes. And at the center, something massive was forming. Multiple vessels merging into a construct that made the Sanctuary entity look small. Planetary siege formation, Tom reported from engineering. They're not here to probe our defenses. They're here to consume Earth completely. Time until engagement? Ryan asked, his mouth dry. They're holding position, Jake said slowly. I think they're waiting for something. Like they want us to see what's coming. The answer came seconds later. Every screen filled with static, then resolved into an image that made Ryan's blood run cold. A face assembled from millions of shifting fragments, geometric and alien and utterly hostile. Architects. The voice came from every speaker simultaneously, a synthesis of destroyed civilizations. We remember you. We remember your fire that burned us from 1,000 worlds. We scattered. We survived. We evolved. Megan gasped, hands trembling on the interface. It's talking to the ship. It thinks we're the architects. 10,000 years we waited. 10,000 years we adapted. Now you return wearing new flesh. Ryan stepped forward. This is Commander Ryan Mitchell of United Earth. We're not the architects. We're human. Irrelevant. You carry their weapons. You speak through their machine souls. You are the enemy reborn. The face shifted in what might have been a smile. But you are weaker now. Mortal. We learned from defeat. This time we will not fail. The connection cut. The swarm fleet began moving toward Earth. 100+ vessels converging. Jake shouted. All vectors. Ryan's mind raced through scenarios, each ending in catastrophe. The Defiance alone couldn't stop this. The incomplete Earth fleet couldn't launch in time. Concordat reinforcements were hours away. They were going to watch Earth burn. Commander. Megan's voice was quiet but steady. The ship's showing me something. A memory from the last Architect battle against overwhelming odds. They had a solution. What solution? Megan looked up, her eyes filled with ancient knowledge and terrible understanding. They sacrificed everything. Loaded their consciousness into ships, became pure weapons. The ship wants to know if we'll do the same. The bridge fell silent. Ryan looked at his crew, young people who dreamed of stars, not dying in wars that weren't theirs. He thought about Earth below, 8 billion souls unaware how close extinction was. There has to be another way, he said firmly. There is. Beth's voice came over the comm from deep in the ship. The fabrication bays. They can replicate entire ship systems, not just components. If we feed them enough raw material and power, they could produce a fleet. Not in months. In minutes. But the power requirements would burn through every system we have, Tom added, excitement and fear mixing in his voice. Reactors would overload, conduits would fry. The Defiance would be destroyed afterward, Megan finished quietly. But Earth would have an armada to defend itself. Ryan made the call in a heartbeat. Do it. Beth, give the fabricators everything. Megan, tell the ship what we need. Jake, get us between Earth and that fleet. If we burn protecting home. The Defiance dove toward Earth as its fabrication bays roared to life, the sound echoing through dimensions humans couldn't perceive. The ship's own structure began feeding into Architect systems, matter being unmade and reformed according to 10,000-year-old templates modified by human desperation. It's working. Beth shouted over rising power hums. We're generating hull sections, engines, weapon arrays. Swarm engaging. Jake threw the ship into evasive maneuvers. They've figured out what we're doing. The Defiance shuddered as enemy fire raked shields. Alarms screamed. Conduits burst throughout the ship. But Ryan held position above Earth's atmosphere, buying seconds with every moment they survived. First craft launching, Megan reported, strain evident. They're beautiful, Commander. Ship minds awakening with just enough consciousness to fight. The fabricators gave them life. On the view screen, the impossible became real. Small warships poured from the Defiance's bays like a swarm fighting the swarm. Each one was a fusion of human and Architect design, not elegant but purposeful, guided by fragments of ancient memory and human determination. The battle was chaos. Newly born ship minds learned warfare in their first seconds, human tactics merging with Architect experience in real time. The swarm had expected one ship. They faced dozens, then hundreds, each adapting and evolving. But the cost was terrible. Hull integrity failing. Beth called. Sections 7 through 12 are gone. Reactor critical. Tom's board was solid red. We're tearing ourselves apart. Ryan felt it through the neural link. The Defiance dying, cannibalizing itself to birth its children. The ship was becoming something new, a mother sacrificing everything for her offspring. The central swarm construct is coming for us, Jake warned. Direct approach. The massive entity filled their view screen, weapons charging with planet-cracking power. It had identified the queen that needed killing. All hands abandon ship, Ryan ordered. Get to escape pods now. No. Megan's voice was calm, her hands steady. The ship won't release me. It needs me to complete the sequence. And Commander, I'm the only one who can guide what comes next. Ryan moved to her station, saw neural connections running deep, saw peaceful acceptance in her young face. Megan, we can disconnect. You can't. I'm part of the ship now like the Architects were. It's okay, Ryan. I understand why they did it. Some things are worth dying for. She smiled, heartbreaking and brave. Tell my family I flew among the stars. Tell them it was worth it. The entity fired. Shields collapsed. Energy tore through the hull, through decks, through lives. In the ship's heart, Megan poured her consciousness into the link and spoke one command. Everything. Give them everything. The Defiance exploded, not in fire but in creation. The ship's mass transformed instantly, every atom converted into pure warfare. Where one vessel had been, 1,000 craft materialized, each carrying fragments of Megan's will, human determination, Architect memory. They fell upon the swarm like righteous fury. Ryan woke in an escape pod, watching through the viewport as humanity's newborn fleet dismantled the invasion. The The swarm retreated, their construct shattered. What have you done? Ambassador Greg asked over comm as Concordat reinforcements arrived too late. Ryan thought of Megan, of the defiance, of the price of survival. Whatever it took, he said simply. We did what humans always do. We adapted. We survived. We won. The new orbital shipyards had transformed Earth's sky into something out of a science fiction dream. Where once a handful of platforms had struggled with alien wreckage, now dozens of massive facilities worked around the clock, each one housing fabrication bays that grew warships like living things. Ryan stood in the observation deck of Orbital Command, watching the new flagship take shape, a vessel that made even the original Defiance look modest. They'd named her Megan's Hope, in honor of the young woman who'd given everything to save Earth. 6 months had crawled by since the Battle of Earth and everything had changed. The swarm, wounded but far from defeated, had pulled back to deep space beyond the galaxy's edge. Intelligence reports painted a grim picture. Entire star systems being consumed, turned into raw materials for their war machine. The ancient enemy was preparing something massive, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before they returned. But humanity wasn't sitting idle either. Final hull sections connecting now, Beth reported, her holographic image transmitted from the Hope's engineering deck. She'd been promoted to Fleet Admiral of Ship Design, overseeing construction of humanity's growing armada. The neural matrix is integrating beautifully. The distributed consciousness fragments we recovered from the battle, pieces of Megan and the Defiance, they're stable and responsive. She's waking up, Ryan. The ship is coming alive. Ryan felt a complicated mix of emotions hearing that. They'd managed to save fragments of Megan Cole's consciousness, her final thoughts preserved in the neural interface before the Defiance's death. It wasn't really her, just echoes, patterns of memory stored in architect technology. But those echoes had guided Earth's growing fleet through a dozen smaller battles, and they'd won every single one. How does she feel? Ryan asked, knowing the question sounded strange but asking anyway. Beth smiled softly. Eager. The ship mind recognizes you specifically. She's asking when you'll come aboard to take command. Soon. We're still waiting for Commander Mitchell. The interruption came from Captain Jake Henderson, now commanding the destroyer Intrepid. Concordat fleet just dropped out of faster than light. Looks like our guests have arrived. The view screen shifted to show 300 alien warships materializing in Earth's outer system, the largest combined fleet the galaxy had assembled in living memory. Leading them was the pride of the Founders, flagship of Supreme Commander Thel of the Kethri Empire. The reptilian species had dominated Concordat military thinking for centuries, and Thel himself had seen 500 years of warfare. Beside the massive alien flagship, Ambassador Greg's face appeared on screen. Commander Mitchell, Supreme Commander Thel wishes to speak with you. I should warn you, he's not pleased about the joint command arrangement Earth negotiated. Ryan had expected resistance. 6 months of human victories had convinced most aliens that Earth belonged in this war, but old prejudices died hard. Put him through. Supreme Commander Thel materialized as a hologram, 3 meters of scaled muscle and ancient authority, with eyes that had witnessed centuries of conflict. When he spoke, it was with the tone of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Commander Mitchell. I arrived to find Earth's orbital space filled with unauthorized military construction. You were granted permission to build defensive forces, not an invasion fleet. The swarm doesn't care about the difference between defense and offense, Ryan replied calmly. Neither should we. Insolence. Thel's head crest flared and what Ryan had learned was anger. Your species has been spacefaring for mere decades. You will defer to proper Concordat command structure and... No. The single word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Ryan saw Greg's eyes widen in alarm, saw shock ripple through the alien bridge crew visible behind Thel. Repeat that, human, Thel said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. With all due respect, Supreme Commander, the answer is no. Earth agreed to joint command. That means equal partnership, not taking orders. You don't command us, we coordinate with you. Ryan stepped closer to the holographic display, meeting those ancient eyes. Your species has been fighting the swarm for 6 months and losing ground every week. Humanity has fought for 6 months without a single loss. Maybe it's time the galaxy tried doing things our way instead of repeating strategies that haven't worked for 10,000 years. For a long, tense moment, Ryan thought Thel might order his 300 ships to fire on Earth's facilities. The mathematics weren't in humanity's favor. 300 experienced alien warships against Earth's 200 newly built vessels would be brutal. Then Thel did something completely unexpected. He laughed. It was a rasping, reptilian sound, but genuine amusement. Your General Crawford warned me you were dangerously reckless. I see she understated the problem. Thel's crest lowered in what Ryan had learned was a gesture of respect. Very well, Commander Mitchell. Joint command it is. Show us what humanity can accomplish when given free rein. Try not to get us all killed in the process. The War Council met aboard Megan's Hope, the ship still incomplete but functional enough to host representatives from a dozen species. Around a massive holographic display showing half the galaxy, military minds studied the tactical nightmare facing them. The swarm has fortified 7 star systems in the outer reach, began Admiral Kara Thompson, one of Earth's first fleet commanders. Each system is a staging ground for expansion. Intelligence suggests they're preparing a coordinated offensive that would split Concordat space completely in half. We must fortify the border worlds, insisted General Vackrell of the Trellum Confederacy, his translucent body pulsing with agitation. Establish defensive perimeters, hold what territory we have. That's exactly what they expect, Ryan countered. The swarm fights like a flood, they push until they find a wall, then they push harder until it breaks. You can't hold a line against a flood forever. You have to strike at the source. Supreme Commander Thel's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. You propose an offensive strike? Into swarm-controlled territory? That's bold to the point of madness. I propose we hit their staging grounds before they're ready to launch. Hard, fast, all at once. Ryan manipulated the display, highlighting strike vectors. 7 targets, 7 battle groups. Concordat vessels provide main force and firepower. Human ships provide breakthrough capability and tactical flexibility. Impossible, Vackrell objected, his body flashing angry colors. Swarm defensive formations have proven impenetrable. We've attempted direct assaults. They all failed catastrophically. They failed because you fought conventionally, Beth interjected, her hologram appearing beside Ryan. Architect technology doesn't follow conventional rules. Neither does human creativity. We've analyzed swarm defensive patterns for months. They adapt quickly, yes, but they adapt logically. They assume opponents will be logical too. And humans aren't logical? Thel asked with what might have been amusement. Beth grinned. Humans are creatively illogical. We do things that make no tactical sense on paper but work brilliantly in practice. The swarm's predictive algorithms can't account for us because we don't follow patterns they recognize. We improvise. We adapt. We do the unexpected. Tom stepped forward, highlighting one target system. We've identified a critical weakness in swarm command structure. They're networked across vast distances, but networks need nodes, central coordination vessels. Destroy the node and local swarm forces revert to basic programming. They become predictable and much easier to defeat. How do you identify these nodes during active combat? Vackrell demanded skeptically. We don't have to. The voice that answered wasn't human or alien. It was Megan's Hope herself, the ship mind speaking through the chamber's systems. I can sense them. The architects designed their vessels to detect swarm command patterns. I perceive them like lights in darkness. Bring me into battle, and I'll show you exactly which lights to extinguish. Ryan watched fear ripple through the Concordat representatives. They'd known intellectually that humans incorporated consciousness into their ships, but hearing a vessel speak as a participant in strategy was something else entirely. This is dangerous precedent, Vackrell said nervously. Giving machine intelligence command authority. Megan isn't a machine, Ryan interrupted quietly but firmly. She's a memorial. The preserved consciousness of a hero who sacrificed everything for Earth. And she's right. With her guidance, we can strike all 7 nodes simultaneously. Without her, we're just throwing ships at an enemy that's had 10,000 years to perfect warfare. Thel studied the tactical display for what felt like an eternity, his ancient mind calculating odds and weighing risks that could determine the fate of civilizations. Finally, he spoke with deliberate authority. Supreme Commander Vackrell, I understand your concerns about precedent. But these humans have demonstrated capabilities we thought impossible. They've won battles we couldn't. If this Megan consciousness says she can find the targets, I'm inclined to trust her proven record. He looked directly at Ryan. When do we launch this mad plan of yours? 72 hours. That gives us time to coordinate 7 battle groups and brief all crews. Ryan turned to face the assembled officers representing dozens of worlds. This will be the largest combined military operation in modern galactic history. 7 simultaneous strikes across 300 light-years of space. If we succeed, we break the swarm's offensive capability for months, maybe longer. If we fail, they sweep through the galaxy unopposed and everything we've fought for dies. So, no pressure at all, Jake said dryly from his position at the back of the chamber, breaking the tension slightly. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Just another Tuesday for humanity. We specialize in impossible odds and last-minute victories. It's become kind of our thing. The 7 battle groups assembled at the edge of Concordat space 3 days later. 500 warships representing every species in the galactic community, unified by shared desperation and slim hope. At the center of Battle Group Alpha, Megan's hope hung in space like a promise of vengeance made solid, 3.5 kilometers of hybrid engineering, bristling with weapons that could unmake matter and protected by shields that bent the laws of physics. Ryan stood on her bridge, surrounded by stations mixing human ergonomics with alien design and architect impossibility. His core team had assembled around him. Beth monitoring ship systems, Tom coordinating with fleet scientists, Lieutenant Amy managing communications across dozens of incompatible alien languages. And everywhere, woven through the ship's neural network like invisible threads, the presence of Megan Cole, not quite alive, not quite artificial intelligence, something transcending boundaries humanity had once thought absolute. All battle groups reporting ready status, Amy announced. Concordat vessels are awaiting your command, Commander. Ryan felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. Somewhere in the chaos of the past 6 months, without any official ceremony or declaration, he'd become the military leader of the largest offensive in galactic history. A human, barely 3 years removed from first contact, commanding fleets that had defended civilization since before Earth had agriculture. Megan, he said softly, speaking to the ship mind. Can you feel them? The swarm command nodes. Yes. Her voice resonated through the bridge, and Ryan could have sworn he heard the same enthusiasm that had defined the real Megan. 7 lights burning in the dark. 7 nexuses of calculation and consumption. They know we're coming, Ryan. They're ready and waiting. So are we. Ryan took a deep breath, then opened the fleet-wide channel that connected 500 ships and hundreds of thousands of crew members. All vessels, this is Commander Mitchell. I won't sugarcoat what we're about to do, it's dangerous as hell. The swarm has spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare. They've consumed countless civilizations and learned from millions of battles. They think they understand how combat works in every possible scenario. He paused, looking around at his bridge crew, human faces showing determination born from defending home, from refusing to accept defeat. But they've never fought humanity. They've never faced a species that looks at overwhelming odds and says, challenge accepted, instead of running away. They've never encountered people who turn garbage into warships, who build fleets from wreckage, who simply refuse to stay down no matter how many times they get knocked back. On the tactical display, Ryan saw hundreds of ships, human, alien, hybrid combinations of both, all waiting for the word that would send them into battle. Today we teach the swarm what happens when you threaten Earth. We show them what happens when you underestimate humanity and our allies. We show them what happens when you wake up weapons that should have stayed buried in history. Ryan felt Megan's hope humming around him, eager and ready for what she was born to do. All ships jump on my mark. Target coordinates transmitted. Remember your training. Trust your wingmates. And let's remind this ancient enemy why the architects were once feared across the galaxy. He looked at Jake at the helm, at the pilot who'd been with him since the beginning. Mark. The fleet jumped into hyperspace as 500 ships carrying the galaxy's hope into the unknown. Battle Group Alpha dropped into normal space at the edge of the outer reach, and immediately every sensor screamed warnings. The swarm's staging ground was massive, an entire solar system stripped bare, every planet reduced to its core, all matter reformed into geometric war machines. Thousands of hostile vessels filled space, their forms constantly shifting as they incorporated new adaptations. And at the center, pulsing with malevolent awareness, a command node 10 kilometers across. Swarm forces moving to engage, Amy reported, her voice tight with controlled fear. Contact count shows 5,000 vessels. They're forming defensive sphere around the node. They definitely know why we're here. Then we don't disappoint them. Ryan turned to Beth. Deploy the Wraith fighters. Time to show them our newest surprise. From Megan's Hope and a dozen other human vessels, tiny craft launched, each barely 10 meters long, powered by miniaturized architect drives, piloted by humans whose consciousness spread across multiple bodies through neural links. The Wraith program had been controversial back home. Critics called it unethical, turning pilots into distributed beings, but volunteers had lined up by the thousands. The Wraith swarm dove into the swarm fleet like needles through armor, too small and too fast for enemy targeting systems designed for capital ships. They didn't carry heavy weapons, they carried viruses, digital attacks that infected swarm computational networks, introducing chaos and uncertainty into systems that had operated flawlessly for millennia. Enemy formation destabilizing. Amy reported, wonder creeping into her professional tone. Their coordination is breaking down. Individual vessels reverting to autonomous behavior patterns. All ships advance. Ryan ordered, his voice carrying across the fleet channel. Hit them while they're confused. The Concordat fleet surged forward with centuries of accumulated tactical doctrine deployed with devastating precision. But it was the human vessels that shocked even their allies. The ships didn't fight like the careful, methodical Concordat forces. They fought like humans. Unpredictably. Creatively. Sometimes making no tactical sense whatsoever. The destroyer Intrepid used its gravity manipulation drives not for movement but as weapons, creating localized gravitational anomalies that swallowed enemy fire and spat it back out in random directions. The cruiser Dauntless executed what should have been an impossible maneuver, firing its main batteries while in the middle of a microjump through hyperspace, striking a swarm vessel that was 3 light minutes away in normal space. And Megan's hope, guided by her shipmind's intuition merged with Ryan's combat experience, wove through the chaos like a dancer at a violent ball, her weapon speaking with thunder that echoed across multiple dimensions. Command node attempting retreat. Tom called out urgently. It's withdrawing toward the inner system. Not today, not ever. Ryan felt Megan's fierce agreement flowing through their neural link. Jake, pursuit course. Megan, show me exactly where to hit it. Megan's hope accelerated, her architect drives pushing past the careful safety limits that Beth had calculated and that the ship cheerfully ignored in favor of getting the job done. They closed on the massive node vessel, dodging coordinated fire from escort craft, weaving through debris fields that had once been inhabited planets. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Beth reported from engineering. But Ryan, our shields are down to 60% integrity. If that node fires its main weapon batteries at this range, it won't get the chance. Megan, are you ready for this? For this moment? I was born ready. The shipmind's voice was fierce and joyful. The architects designed us for exactly this. Time to show the swarm why they should have stayed extinct. Megan's hope dove beneath the node vessel's defensive fire umbrella, presenting her dorsal surface to weapons that could vaporize moons. But as the swarm fired everything it had, reality itself seemed to bend. The ship's shields didn't simply absorb the overwhelming energy. They redirected it, channeled it, turned it back inward in a feedback loop that the architects had spent generations perfecting. The command node's own weapons tore it apart from the inside out, a cascade of self-destruction that lit up the system like a newborn star. Target destroyed, Amy reported, her voice shaking with relief and disbelief. Commander, we're receiving reports from all other battle groups. 6 more nodes eliminated successfully. The swarm is in full retreat across all 7 target systems. Ryan slumped in his command chair, suddenly feeling every second of the battle, every decision that could have gone catastrophically wrong, every life that had been risked on his orders. Around him, his crew erupted in cheers, and over the fleet channel, he could hear similar celebrations from hundreds of ships representing dozens of worlds. They'd actually done it. 7 simultaneous victories against impossible odds. The insane plan had worked. All ships, hold current positions and begin search and rescue operations, Ryan ordered, forcing his exhausted mind to focus on next steps. Coordinate with Concordat vessels for damage assessment and casualty collection. Someone get me preliminary loss reports. The butcher's bill came in slowly. 37 ships lost completely, thousands of casualties across the combined fleet. The price had been brutal. But they'd won. They'd shattered the swarm's offensive capability and bought the galaxy precious time. Supreme Commander Thell's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression more complex than Ryan had ever seen on the alien commander. Commander Mitchell. On behalf of the Concordat Council and every world we represent, I must offer something my species rarely gives. An apology. And our profound gratitude. What your species accomplished today should not have been possible according to every tactical model we possess. You keep saying things are impossible, Ryan replied with a tired smile. Maybe it's time to stop being surprised when humans prove otherwise. We're really good at making the impossible happen. It's our signature move. 6 weeks later, Ryan stood in the orbital command observation deck once again, but this time he wasn't alone. Representatives from across the known galaxy had traveled to Earth to witness something historic: the commissioning ceremony for humanity's new defense fleet. 25 warships hung in perfect formation, each one a masterpiece of hybrid technology. But military capability wasn't what had drawn dignitaries from 1,000 worlds, it was what those vessels represented. Every ship bore the name of someone lost in the war. The Defiant for the original vessel. The Megan Cole for the hero who'd sacrificed everything. The list went on, a memorial written in metal and light and determination. The Concordat has formally recognized Earth's classification as a major contributing power in the war effort, Ambassador Greg said, standing beside Ryan and speaking with genuine respect rather than his old condescension. You're no longer junior members of the galactic community. You're recognized leaders, your voice carries equal weight in all strategic decisions. We just did what needed doing, Ryan replied simply, watching the ships maneuver in perfect coordination choreographed by distributed ship minds. Saw a problem threatening everyone and we fixed it the best way we knew how. With Wreckage we gave you as mockery. Greg's expression was genuinely rueful. I've been authorized to officially confess that the decision to give Earth that derelict ship was meant as an insult. The Concordat Council genuinely believed you would fail, give up within months, and quietly accept your place as a minor, irrelevant species in galactic affairs. Best mistake anyone ever made. Indeed it was. Greg paused, his alien features somehow conveying human-like concern. There's something else you should know. The Concordat has been conducting deep space scans, tracking the swarm's movements after their retreat. Ryan, they didn't just fall back to lick their wounds. They're rebuilding on a massive scale, incorporating everything they learned from these battles. Our analysts estimate they'll return within 1 to 2 Earth years. Stronger, more adaptive, and extremely angry. Let them come. Ryan watched Megan's Hope glide past the observation window, her hull catching and reflecting Earth's sunlight in ways that seemed almost alive. He thought about the incredible journey humanity had taken, from a species barely acknowledged by the galaxy to the tip of the spear in an ancient war that had nearly destroyed civilization once before. He thought about every person who'd sacrificed, every impossible decision, every moment where giving up would have been easier but they'd chosen to keep fighting instead. We're not the architects with their ancient knowledge, he said quietly, more to himself than to Greg. We're not the Concordat with millennia of experience and vast resources. We're just humans doing what we've always done since we climbed down from the trees. And maybe that's exactly what this galaxy needs right now. What do you mean? Greg asked. Ryan turned to face the alien ambassador, and his smile carried the weight of humanity's entire history of stubborn survival. The architects fought the swarm to a standstill 10,000 years ago and died in the attempt. The Concordat has been slowly losing ground for months despite all your technology and experience. But humans? We don't know when to quit. We take broken pieces and make them into something beautiful and deadly. We look at impossible odds and see interesting challenges worth solving. We turn wreckage into dreadnoughts and garbage into glory. Below them, the fleet began moving, departing Earth orbit for patrol routes that would take them to the dangerous edges of explored space. Each vessel carried fragments of Megan Cole's preserved consciousness distributed across their systems. Her courage and sacrifice spread across the stars like a protective shield for all civilization. When the swarm returns in force, Ryan continued with absolute conviction, they're not going to find the galaxy they remember from ancient history. They're going to find humanity standing at the front lines, backed by allies who've learned that sometimes the best solutions come from species who've never learned what impossible actually means. They're going to find out what happens when you give humans trash and expect them to fail. He watched Megan's Hope accelerate toward the outer system, her drives leaving trails of light that looked almost like hope made visible against the darkness of space. One person's trash is another person's treasure. The Concordat's garbage became Earth's dreadnought. That dreadnought became the fleet that saved the galaxy. And if that's not the perfect summary of humanity's story among the stars, I don't know what is. In the vast distance beyond human sight, stars beckoned with ancient light. Somewhere out there in the dark between galaxies, the swarm was preparing for the next round of a war older than human civilization. But for the first time in 10,000 years of conflict, they would face an enemy they couldn't predict through logic, couldn't calculate with mathematics, couldn't defeat through pure strategic superiority. They would face humanity. And humanity never, ever gave up. The age of humans had begun, built on a foundation of alien trash transformed into triumph. And the galaxy would never be the same.